I'm Julie Herman of Jaybird Quilt and Lazy Girl Designs, and welcome to the Gravity Block of the Month. I will be here once a month to go over the blocks for that month. So we are now in month 5, which is called Celestial. And again, every month we're going to make 2 blocks using same pattern, different fabrics. So this month we are going to be making a predominantly green block and then a pink block. So you can see the pink block up here in the finished quilt. Green one is hidden down tucked below, so I will hold this up to show you. And this fun block is made using the Hex N More Ruler. So let's get started.
Working from our gravity pattern books, we're on page 20 to make block 5, and we'll be following the cutting directions on pages 8 and 11. So as I just mentioned, we are in month 5 and working on Celestial. And just as we have in our previous months, we're going to go ahead and start with our 10-inch squares, turn those into cut pieces, and then turn those cut pieces into blocks. One thing that you'll notice that is different this month is that I now have the fabrics from the official kit. So mine have the pinked edges. So I will go over some tips and tricks on how best to use those fabrics when cutting your strips and cutting your shapes. So let's begin. We're going to be using our Hex N More to cut some jewels and 2 different size triangles. I'm going to do the demonstration for this month with the pink fabrics. And if you're like, hey, Julie, why do the tags say red? That's because this pink block falls within the red wedge when you look at the entire quilt, if you divide the gravity quilt into 6 wedges. So yes, I know these are pink, but I did write red on the tags. If you have not yet downloaded them, I highly suggest it. Really helps to keep things organized. Link is in the caption below. So our A, B, and C fabrics, we need jewels, and our C, we also need some triangles. So I'm going to show you with the A and the C fabrics what that looks like. So with our A, we just need to cut a 6.5-inch strip and cut our jewels. But with our C, we need a 6.5-inch strip and a 3.5-inch strip. And if you do the math there, 6.5 plus 3.5 is 10. 10 is exactly what we have. So the first thing that I suggest that you do is take a ruler that is longer than 10 and measure to make sure that your square is 10 inches. So I'm going to start. We are good right there from the tips of our points. So what that means is that we don't have extra fabric to trim off those pinked edges. I do like to trim that off when possible. And so with A, I'll show you what that looks like, but with C, we will not be able to do that. So with A, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to trim off just a tiny little bit. Just that much, just because I prefer to have a straight edge when possible, but it's not always possible depending on what we are cutting. And this ruler, my Sew Tights ruler, happens to be 6.5 inches. So I can go ahead and do this. If you don't have a 6.5, you can put a 6 next to another one and butt 2 rulers up together. So let me show you how to cut our jewel shape, and then I'll show you how we're going to use our C fabric to make sure we have enough fabric for our triangles. This is the first time we're cutting a jewel, and the cutting directions for a jewel are on page 11 of your book. And we are going to take the Hex N More ruler and line up our 4.5-inch hexagon solid line. And if you follow that around, it turns into your 6.5-inch jewel. And I don't want to waste fabric, so I like to kind of go as far over here as I can, but not off of my piece. And so I line up that solid line up there, and then I have the line down here, which happens to also be a solid line from my full 8.5-inch hexagon. You don't have that with every jewel shape. You do with this one, but for an example, you don't with that one down there. So we're going to line that up here and trim. And trim. Looks like I need a new blade. I feel like that always happens when I'm recording. And now what I'm going to do is flip my fabric over to the wrong side so that I can keep my ruler in the same orientation that I had it in. And so now that same line that we were paying attention to, we are now going to line up, and that is going to complete our jewel shape. And it's okay that we're cutting it upside down because it is reversible. So again, solid line, it's always your double check. So if you kind of get distracted and all of a sudden you line up something up here or up here, if you don't have a solid line around your whole shape, it means you're in the wrong place. So just take a pause, make sure you're in the right place. And then one quick note when cutting here is I'm going to be cutting my next jewel. I'll lay one out to kind of show you what I mean. I'm going to be cutting my next one like this because you don't actually have enough fabric to cut them like this. So I want to make sure that I don't cut too much into this fabric. So I'm going to do this cut first. You'll see I'll peel the fabric up and then do that cut. Let me show you what it looks like. So cut, peel, and cut. So now I have that first jewel. And then this fabric, I am going to need to recut that side before I can cut my next one. So I'm going to keep it on the wrong side, slide my ruler back on. And this is a good double check if you happen to have it on the right side and you go to put your jewel on and you're like, hey, this doesn't fit, what's going on? Before freaking out, often turn the fabric around, upside down, different ways, and then you can figure out, oh, nope, that's what I was doing wrong. And so we go here, and again, we have that line there and that line there. And I made sure that I didn't cut into this fabric here. So trim and trim. Really do need that new blade. Flip it back over to the correct side. And again, my solid line that goes all the way around my shape. Trim and trim. So now I have my A jewels. And so it's at this point that I would take my tag off my fabric and move it onto my cut pieces. That way I stay nice and organized before heading over to the sewing machine. With my C fabric, I need to go ahead and cut jewels and triangles. So I'm not going to be able to trim off any extra like I did with my A fabric. So I'm going to take my 6.5-inch ruler and I'm going to line up the edge of the ruler with the points that are on this side of the pinked cut edge. And as you can see, when you line up your ruler, it's under 1/8 of an inch. So that's okay. It'll end up in the seam allowance. We're just going to line that up. And cut, and then we need a 3.5-inch strip for our triangles. And so if I line up my ruler, we are going to, I'm going to show you what happens. We're going to literally give the tiniest of tiny haircuts to our points. Can you even see that? Barely. So it's just like the littlest of haircuts. So it really is pretty darn close on exact of 10 inches. We're going to take this fabric and do the same thing we just did with A, which is cut 2 jewels. And then we're going to use this fabric to go ahead and cut some triangles. In this case, we need 3.5-inch triangles. Our triangle cutting directions are shown on page 8, and they're shown on page 8 with the Super Psychic. You can use the Super Psychic, or you can use the Hex N More. I'm going to show you how we do it with Hex N More. So it is as simple as lining up our 3.5-inch triangle line and the top of our ruler and cutting on both sides. You never want to cut towards yourself. So do the first cut, and then either use a rotating mat or rotate your fabric and your ruler around and line everything back up. There we go. And cut, and then just continue down the strip until you have enough pieces. And then I like to stick all my scraps in one pile till I'm done with my block. And then once I'm done and I know everything's good, then I use my scraps to go ahead and cut my triangles for my stellar pillow. So I would take these and the jewels from here and go ahead and clip it. And then from my F fabric, I'm going to need smaller triangles. So just pay attention to the details in your pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my skinnier strips from my F. And then once I have all of my pink pieces cut, I will go ahead and cut all of my green pieces. Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful for you, be sure to like it, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Show us your progress on your gravity blocks in our Facebook group. We'd love to see how you're coming along with your quilt. The link to the Facebook group is below. I'll be back here in the next video to show you how to piece block 5.